The witnesses that I interviewed, the only individuals that I know or met prior to this investigation was Julie and Chris Albert and Colin Albert. These came from me. Funny, I'm going through his client's phone. No nude so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him. Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Lead investigator and former Trooper Michael Proctor played a big role in Karen Reed's first trial, but will he be called in the retrial? And if so, when would be the perfect time? Plus, it was the battle of the Reconstruction experts last week. So who do you think swayed the jury the most? We'll talk about it. Also coming up for you this hour, gangster rapper Suge Knight speaking out from behind bars, urging his longtime rival Diddy to take the stand. And alleged victim Mia returns for more cross-examination this morning. We're hearing her emotional testimony with the help of artificial intelligence. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. It's great to be back with you this morning, and we have a tremendous show planned for you. So let's get started as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee or tea or whatever you like in the morning. It's time for my opening statement. Is he a hardened gangster or a jury consultant? Suge Knight, the imprisoned killer, founder of Death Row Records and longtime Diddy rival, gives an interview to CNN where he says that Diddy should take the stand to humanize himself. Time out. Suge Knight giving trial consulting advice? How does that work out? The man is a feared gangster. He's doing 28 years for a homicide where he mowed down a man with his truck. And he's making an excellent point about Diddy. It's kind of awesome because, especially because of the reason for the longest time, these two were arch enemies. So is Suge softening up? I highly doubt that. He's always been a really intelligent guy, right? So maybe he's just kind of become a jailhouse lawyer. Who knows? My friends, what I do know is that Mr. Knight makes a great point, and Diddy should listen. Here's why. Diddy is a performer. He is a producer. He is one of the very best to ever do it. He could get up on that stand and perform. He can humbly explain to the jury that he is an imperfect guy, that he did a lot of things wrong, and that he is really sorry for his wrongdoings, but that he didn't commit the acts that the government is alleging that he committed. That could actually work. Being a human being, like Suge said, being apologetic and being relatable to the jury, it could work. But if he blows it and the humanization attempt backfires, there's a chance that Diddy will wind up behind bars for a very long time, just like his longtime rival, Suge Knight. That is my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
I left work and I went to the beach. I found a part of a body.
You know what part?
The torso and arm.
All right, in Wisconsin, we've got the state's case continuing in the deadly first state murder trial for defendant Maxwell Anderson. This guy's accused of killing and dismembering 19-year-old Sade Robinson. In New York, we've got testimony resuming in Diddy's federal sex trafficking trial. Court's going to start up in that one, 9 a.m. Eastern. And in Arizona, counselor, cult mom is back. Jury selection continuing this morning for Lori Vallow Daybell's attempted homicide case. Openings could begin, my friends, as early as this afternoon. So we'll keep you posted on that. But right now, let's turn to our top story we have for you this morning. It is day 2 of defendant Karen Reed's defense case, resuming this morning. Friday, the jury heard from a crash Reconstruction expert hired by the defense, and he told the jury that the prosecution's timeline he thinks is wrong. He says that John O'Keefe was still using his phone after the prosecution alleges that Karen Reed hit him with her Lexus. Now, another big focus on Friday was former Trooper Michael Proctor. The defense called Proctor's longtime friend, Jonathan Diamandis, to the witness stand. This was done outside of the jury's presence. He was questioned in order to authenticate those, shall we say, ugly text messages that Proctor wrote about defendant Karen Reed. Special prosecutor Hank Brennan argued that the Commonwealth, that the defense should just call Proctor to the stand if they want to get in his text messages. But the defense is trying to just get in the messages. That's why they called that witness on Friday, Proctor's friend who saw them. Take a listen.
It will be distracting, confusing for the jury, and it could be unfair for either side because it will lead to arguments about what it means without a factual basis. And so my position is I don't necessarily disagree that it's relevant, but it should come through Michael Proctor. And if the defense wants the value, they should call Michael Proctor.
I would note Mr. Brennan is not sitting at defense counsel table in this case. We appreciate the offer to help us with strategy about which witness we should call, but that's solely the province of the defense to determine. We should not be forced to call Michael Proctor so that Mr. Brennan can then cross-examine him and lead him through basically his entire closing argument. He is entitled to call Mr. Proctor in rebuttal. He has every right to call Mr. Proctor again.
Oh, so this is getting interesting. Okay, so today, the judge has a big decision to make, and that's whether Proctor's mean messages, let's call them, can come in on their own, or if the defense has to call him as a witness in order to get him in. Because remember, this is hearsay. All right, so let's talk about this. Who should call Proctor, or should nobody call Proctor? Is there ever a perfect time to call Proctor for either side? All right, let's bring in our guests. I'm so happy to have on the show this morning criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci, and nationally known radio host and the host and creator of the show Road Patrol Live, somebody who's been in the courtroom covering the retrial, John DePietro. Good morning to you both. All right, so
good morning.
I want to start with something really key. John DePietro, help me out here. Proctor was fired from the Massachusetts State Police. But would you clarify for us?
Yes.
Wasn't fired because of tampering with anything or planting anything, was he?
No. He was terminated. Good morning, Julie. He was terminated simply because of what they called was inappropriate abuse of alcohol on duty. People need to understand that there was actually a federal investigation into the handling of this, and they found nothing. I was in court Friday. There was very extraordinary, this showdown of whether or not to call Proctor. Julie, I'm going to tell you that I don't see the need for it. The jury understands. In the Commonwealth, Hank Brennan, they've laid out a very strong narrative and case for what exactly they believe happened here, and they backed it up. At this point, I don't see the need to call Proctor. We know why the defense wants to call Proctor is because they want him in the courtroom. They're going to try to shock the jury because of these texts. But make no mistake about it, there was nothing in that hinted anything that had to do involving the investigation or any type of planting of evidence or some of these other extraordinary things that they have accused him of. And this is really important. Yuri Buchanan was on the stand. He read some of the Proctor tests that apparently there was a text chain with some of the members of the state police. What they want to introduce is separate. His sister texted his longtime friends. His friend he didn't remember this text chain at all. I think his friend had only one time responded once in this text chain. They had it, maybe some people more active than others, but Hank Brennan drilled down. The witness didn't even remember when this came up in their text chain.
Wow. John, thank you for all of that. So I appreciate that context. I feel like that's so important because I've had so many people just joining on at some point and saying, oh, so what's going on and what did Proctor do, you know? And so to be very clear, not terminated for planting anything. There's zero evidence of that.
Nothing to do with that.
Right.
No.
And thank you, John. And so the defense wants to get in his mean messages. For anybody who missed it in trial 1, we have a quick clip. And Mario, I'm going to go to you on the other side. Let's take a listen to some of those nasty things.
So these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Okay, so that was just some of what he said. You know, distasteful, yes, but has nothing to do with any kind of planting or anything. So, Mario, legally here, I see what the defense is trying to do. It seems that they just want those ugly messages in without having him live on the stand because they know, even though Brennan's not using them in his case, as John astutely pointed out, Brennan doesn't need him. He's got Buchanan. He doesn't need him to establish this. They know that if they call him, then Brennan gets to say, there was no planting, there was no, you didn't, you know, all that. What does the judge do, Mario?
Morning, Julie. So the defense is trying to make an end run here and get all of Proctor's text messages in without actually calling Proctor. You got to remember, he's fired now. On the first trial, he had a job. Now he's fired, so you really don't know what's going to come out of his mouth. I think that the judge rules for the prosecution in this and says the author of those messages is the person that should testify to those messages. And now the defense has a big burden because you don't know what he's going to say on the stand. You can't ask leading questions. He's your witness on direct. So whatever question you ask, he could do whatever he pleases at this point. So it's very risky, and that's why they're trying to make an end run around Proctor.
Right, right, Mario. And thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, there's a hearsay problem. There is a big hearsay problem. You said for the judge to try to get these in through a friend, you know. So looking at the cases last year to this year, John DePietro, you were in the courtroom for both here.
Yep.
In the first trial, the defense was able to add to their case by making Proctor look bad. This year, tell me, what do you think would even happen, whether they bring him in live on the stand or just his messages? Do you think it's going to have the same effect it did first time around?
Julie, what I believe they're counting on is the juror that left, Victoria George, that briefly was part of the defense, but we haven't seen her in weeks in the courtroom. But from what I understand, she said that the text messages almost blinded her, and it changed the way she looked at the case, and she couldn't go backwards. I'll kind of use an example for the audience, like Mark Furman. With some of the language of Detective Mark Furman with the OJ case, some people couldn't get past that. Michael Proctor, he's a brilliant investigator. I covered him with the Michael Walsh case, which is still going on. There was nothing nefarious. These were inappropriate text messages he sent to his longtime friends and a family member. But make no mistake about it, there was really nothing that impaired or had anything to do with the investigation. They're using this for shock value. I think, Julie, frankly, as someone that's been sitting there all this time, I think they're desperate and they're looking for something to distract the jury, something to shock them, to shake off a lot of the evidence that the Commonwealth has put forward.
Right. Excellent analysis, John. Mario, let me toss another legal question at you, please. Something I've been thinking a lot about, and John mentioned this a bit, how the defense team had requested a federal investigation be done. They were trying to claim that Karen Reed was the victim of corruption and a frame job and all this stuff. And the feds did investigate and found nothing. They found that the right person is standing trial with these accusations. That being said, that was the way that the federal government got a hold of Proctor's personal phone. They would have never seen his personal messages but for Karen Reed's attorneys saying, hey, something happened. You ought to stick your nose in this and look into it, and they extracted them. So, Mario, if he is up on the stand and is called, if you're the judge, should Brennan be allowed to bring in the fact that, how did anybody get your phone, Mr. Proctor? How did anybody see these messages on your personal phone? Do you think they can talk about the federal investigation and how it found nothing?
Oh, absolutely. I think the federal investigation absolutely comes in. It goes right to credibility. Credibility is always an issue, and I think it would come in. That's another reason why they're very reluctant to call Proctor to the stand.
That's so helpful, Mario. Yeah, that's why they want to just have the text messages, no Proctor, because, he's like a live wire, right? I mean, the guy, as John said, he's had a long career doing many, many investigations. Brian Walsh case, one of them, as John said, there wasn't planting of evidence here, period. End of story. Did he say some mean things? No. Yeah, he did. Who hasn't, I mean, okay, so that's that. The guy's human. I'll be curious to see after this case is over if he gets his job back. We'll leave it there for now. We've got much more about the Karen Reed case coming up. John DePietro, we'll look forward to seeing more tweets from you and having you back on the program this week for more analysis. Thank you kindly, my friend. Take good care. And Mario's coming with us. Here's what we have coming up.
What's your opinion?
That it is consistent with being struck by a Lexus and ultimately contacting a hard surface such as frozen ground.
What did you find in terms of any data regarding a collision?
Neither of the events that occurred on that date were triggered by a collision.
It was a battle of the experts on Friday. So who came out on top? We'll discuss. Plus, hardened gangster Suge Knight sounded more like a jury consultant as he's given his longtime rival Diddy some trial advice. Should Diddy listen and take the stand? That's next.
Lori Daybell, doomsday cult mom, convicted killer, and now defendant in yet another high-profile trial.
She didn't really care who she hurt.
This time for the attempted murder of a former family member.
Just makes you sad.
And again, she's representing herself.
What about the same problem?
Are you done? Or are you just going to keep...
Will this be the final chapter in the saga
of the doomsday cult mom?
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Now for what's trending in true crime. Legal advice from the founder of Death Row Records, Marion Suge Knight. So last week, the imprisoned killer spoke to CNN about why Sean Diddy Combs should testify in his own defense. Take a listen to what Suge had to say to CNN's Laura Coates.
From what you know about Diddy, Puffy, as you call him, Sean Combs, do you think that he will want to testify in his own defense?
He probably was advised not to, but I feel if he do tell his truth, he really would walk. If Puffy go out there and say, hey, I wasn't control of my life at the time, or himself, and he can humanize his own self, and the jury might give him a shot. But if they keep him sitting down, it's like he's scared to face the music.
Now, Knight is serving a 28-year-long prison sentence in the state of California after pleading no contest in 2018 to voluntary manslaughter after a fatal hit and run. So, should Diddy take legal advice from Mr. Knight? Let's talk about it with our Power Panel guest this morning. So pleased to have with me former prosecuting attorney in South Carolina, Tommy Pope, along with former Hot 97 co-host Lisa G. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Hi.
My goodness, Suge Knight giving trial consulting advice. This is really something I never thought we'd see the day. Lisa G, how about you?
Hi, good morning. That's like asking the main bully in high school to give you advice on the algebra test. Like, these guys are arch enemies. Right. There's no way that I would take advice from him. And I think Suge is doing this for his own ego. Look at all the publicity he's getting. But if I were Puffy, P. Diddy, whatever you want to call him these days, I would say, no way am I listening to him, nor will his attorneys.
Right, Lisa. I was just talking to our awesome show director, Matt Woolley, about this, and he was saying, like, Suge is kind of setting a trap for Diddy here. Like, yeah, go ahead, testify. It'd be good for you. Great result for you, you know. And, like, where really this is just he wants to see his demise. What do you think, Tommy? I agree. I think he's got a great point.
That's like when we were kids getting the guy to throw the rock at the wasp nest and going, oh, they probably won't sting it. You know?
Exactly.
But I think truly if you take a step back, all the horrible things we've heard in the courtroom, you know, there's no good explanation. So if he can get up and personalize it, truly, I mean, again, not sitting in the defense room with them, but what's he got to lose? If he can personalize it and, you know, almost have a mea culpa, and, you know, I was drunk on my own popularity, on my own riches, and I went out of control, but it was never something, you know, that was illegal. You know, it was consensual, and it was this, and otherwise, I will agree with Suge. Otherwise, you're just sitting there and they're judging you. So, I mean, independent of where the information's coming from or the advice is coming from, it may be something worth considering.
Right. You know, and another good point, our director, he's so awesome, you know, was saying, did Suge testify? And I'm thinking, no. And we've talked a lot about this, about how in Tupac's case, his dear friend, his artist, he's in the car. We know we've got the pending case for Tupac's murder, and Suge's not saying a word. So, you know, it's like, okay, so you want Diddy to go up there and then be subjected to a big cross. Lisa G. Yeah, right? Lisa,
yeah, I mean,
you know these guys. I mean, what do you think? What do you think Diddy thinks about what Suge is saying?
Well, if it's even gotten back to him, but I've known Sean for, you know, decades now, and he is not a sympathetic character. And if I were his attorney, I would not put him up on the stand. Even the apology video he did about the video where you can see him beating up his former girlfriend, he did not seem apologetic at all. There was no sympathy there that I felt from that video, and I'm sure the jurors would feel the same way. I would not put him up on the stand. No way.
Yeah, it's a great point, Lisa. We all saw that video, and it went over like a lead balloon. You know, he would have been better off saying nothing. Right. Oh, gosh. Oh, speaking of somebody saying something, let's turn to our other bit of trending news I want to ask you both about. President Donald Trump isn't ruling out a pardon for Sean Diddy Combs. Apparently, last week when a reporter asked the president about it, the president said that he would look at the facts before making a decision. So now we've got rapper 50 Cent, who we know makes no bones about his hate for Diddy, saying that he's going to contact President Trump and urge him not to offer Diddy that pardon. Now, just last week, we know the president pardoned Todd and Julie Chrisley after they served more than 2 years in federal prison for bank fraud and tax evasion. So what are the odds that the president pardons Diddy? Tommy Pope, do we need to worry about this now? Do we need to worry about the government potentially convicting him and then it being undone?
Julie, I just want to make clear, as a hip old white man, it's 50 Cent, 50 Cent. So just once I get that squared away for you.
Thank you for the correction, my friend.
But I feel like, I've said this before, but I feel like we're living in a bad Saturday Night Live skit. You know, if you couldn't make this up, but now, you know, the leader of the free world is getting advice from 50 Cent on whether to pardon P. Diddy. I mean, again, if I'd have told you that a year ago, you'd say, you know, I'm making it up. And so it's concerning to me, you know, in general, the pardons and the randomness. I know it's happened all throughout the presidencies, but, you know, as a prosecutor, it undermines the criminal justice system. It undermines what the jurors have done, the work, you know, victims, all of that. And I hope that it doesn't come to that.
Right. You're right, Tommy. It's like only in America does this stuff happen. Only in America do we have this situation. Lisa G., let me ask you this before we have to let you go. I know that Diddy's been to your studio many times. You've done many interviews with him. Curious, since we're talking about Suge and the late, great Tupac Shakur, did they ever come for an interview?
No, Suge never came for an interview. I did not meet Tupac. He was up at our radio station the day he was there unfortunately, I was not. But getting back to the pardon, I think because of that tape, seeing him beating up Cassie Ventura, I don't think the president will pardon him. That's just my personal feeling. I hope it doesn't happen if it comes to that.
Right, Lisa. No, I'm with you. And, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of people around the president. If the president's a busy man, obviously he's not concerned with every little bit of testimony in the Diddy case. I'm sure there are plenty of people advising him about the bad things that are coming in and perhaps would not be appropriate for a presidential pardon. Lisa G., you're amazing. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. We'll look forward to having you back here very soon. Tommy Pope, you're amazing too, and you're sticking with us even through Court TV Live today, so we're excited about that. Still ahead here, though, on opening statements, here's what's coming up. We're going to use some AI technology to bring you the testimony from alleged victim Mia. She was Diddy's assistant, gave harrowing testimony last week. You'll hear some of it next.
How did you react when that happened?
I just froze. I didn't react.
How did you feel?
Terrified and confused and ashamed and scared.
Did you want to have sex with Mr. Combs?
No.
How long was this assault?
It was very quick, but felt like forever.
Plus, 2 Reconstruction experts battle it out in Karen Reed's retrial. Who did you like better? Who do you think is swaying the jury? That's coming up. Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant in your spotlight this morning. The prosecution witness in the Diddy trial, known as Mia, is returning to the stand this morning. Now, this is for more cross-examination. Mia worked as Combs' personal assistant and testified that he sexually assaulted her on multiple occasions. And we're bringing you some of her testimony through the court transcripts and AI voice technology.
Where were you in the Beverly Grove house?
The room I stayed in was upstairs in a room with bunk beds. So I was asleep on the bottom bunk bed.
Did you lock the door to your room?
No.
Remind the jury why not.
Objection. It's overruled.
Why didn't you lock the door to your room, Mia?
Because I wasn't allowed to. That was his house, and you can't lock his doors.
And who did not allow you to lock your door?
Puff.
Did there come a point in time when you woke up?
Yes.
What caused you to wake up?
The weight of a person on top of me.
Who was on top of you?
Puff.
What do you remember happening when Mr. Combs was on top of you?
I remember it was sort of like him telling you that somehow be quiet and using, this just happened so fast. Using like one hand to get, I guess, his hands or whatever off.
What did he do when he used that hand to get his hands undone?
He put himself inside of me.
So you said he put himself inside of you, is that right?
Yes.
Do you mean that he put his penis inside of you?
Yes.
How did you react when that happened?
I just froze. I didn't react.
How did you feel?
Terrified and confused and ashamed and scared.
Did you want to have sex with Mr. Combs?
No.
How long was this assault?
It was very quick, but felt like forever.
How did it end?
I don't remember, but I know that he didn't like leave the job unfinished, so.
He wouldn't leave a job unfinished?
Yeah, whenever he was done or satisfied or got what he wanted.
Is that when it would end?
Yes.
What were you doing at the Beverly Crest house?
I was.
So that was just a little sampling for you. Now let's talk about Mia's testimony. I have 2 great guests to help me unpack this because, of course, as strong as the testimony seemed on direct examination, it's being challenged on cross very aggressively by a very good attorney, and we're going to see more of that this morning. So let's bring in our power panel now. Let's bring in private investigator, retired military officer, and retired member of the NYPD as well. Manuel Gomez is with us, and former law enforcement officer, domestic violence expert, and the host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King. Good morning to you both. Claudia, I want to start with you, if I may, please. Being a domestic violence expert, hearing from Mia, there was a lot of assaultive behavior that she said she experienced at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs, him throwing things at her, closing her arm in a door, forcing her to perform oral sex, allegedly raping her, all of these things she alleged. Yet we know that she said a lot of wonderful things about him publicly to the world on her social media. Claudia, help us reconcile these things and understand why.
Good morning, Julie. Well, it's like we see a lot with traditional domestic abuse victims where they truly do love or care for their abuser. So I believe that Mia really did love and care for Puff as a friend and as her employer. So I think she also probably had difficulty in kind of making these things make sense in her own mind. We see a lot of times that sex assault victims will be in denial, and so she might have even had that denial going on. So she's putting on that public face of really saying wonderful things and loving him because that's what she wants to believe in her own mind. She doesn't want to believe that he's capable of these terrible things that he's actually doing to her.
Claudia, thank you. That's so helpful. I'm going to share with you some of Mia's words. It really underscores the points you just made when she was asked on cross about some of these things. We extracted some of her testimony, and she references being like in a relationship, being in a cycle of violence. And in part, she says, I was young and manipulated and eager to survive. I'm unraveling a lot of this now in therapy. Nobody was there to say that these things that were happening were wrong. There was nobody around us that even flinched at his behavior. She said, I was always in trouble and I was always just trying to find a way to not be in trouble. Manuel, this brings me to my next question for you. Having worked these kinds of cases, doing this type of work, very few people can say, if they worked cases that involve forced labor, sex trafficking, kidnapping. I mean, you've seen everything. Mia's testimony largely establishes forced labor, if she's believed. She said things like she was made to stay up for 5 days in a row. Things were thrown at her while she was working. She was put in fear that while she's at Combs's house working for him, he's forcing her to perform sexual acts on him. Would you please speak to that? What it's like when someone is in a position to be giving forced labor to someone else?
Well, I got to say, when it comes to Mia, her testimony is explosive for the prosecution because she actually lays the framework for the racketeering case. The problem with Mia, she's problematic. She, like you said before, and as my colleague said, she's changed her statements to glorifying Diddy. And this is going to be a big problem for the jury. As a matter of fact, throughout this whole case that I've been, really closely monitoring because being a New Yorker and it being here, they have failed to produce, I think, in my professional opinion, that he's guilty of sex trafficking. And the fact that the only thing they have left is this RICO charges, which show that, yes, there has been forced labor. Yes, she is psychologically damaged. I think the jury will be sympathetic to that. And I love the fact that they incorporated AI technology to reread the testimony. But the fact of the matter is, like in the Harvey Weinstein case, we've seen so much criminal stuff other than the sex trafficking on Sean Combs that a New York jury is going to say this monster should not walk among us, and they will convict him.
Well, that's interesting to hear you say that, Manuel. As a New Yorker, I'm curious if that gives Diddy an advantage, being a New Yorker himself, being born there, raised there, making New York proud. Do you think that gives him an advantage going in, Manuel?
I think it took away his advantage because New Yorkers are known for being a little bit more sharper on cases like this. And since he was such an icon, he's let everyone down. And the fact of the matter is, more important than even all the superstars that have testified, as I said to you, is the assistants. The assistants that have testified in this case lay the foundation. Remember, Julie, they've secured absolute loyalty for P. Diddy. They secured threats and drugs and secured the hotels, everything necessary to do the racketeering for this case. Again, they're the ones that closed the lid on his coffin.
Great analysis, Manuel. Thank you for that. I want to share with you another statement. This is from the cross-examination of Mia. It started on Friday. It's going to continue this morning. Attorney Brian Steele, one of Diddy's lawyers, asking about a birthday party. Pictures were posted. She said it's Puff's birthday. That's what the date was. I tried to forget that night and just shove it down. I never wanted to think about it again, and because she was allegedly sexually assaulted then as well, but posting pictures publicly. So they're trying to make her look like a liar is what they're trying to do. Claudia, tell me please, what do you think Mia can do to help herself today when she's back up there in trying to help people understand the place that she was coming from and not wanting the world to know, and why she put the posts up that she did that contradict the things that she say happened?
I think she just needs to continue to be very honest with her answers and with the jury and explain to them what she was feeling in those moments. Some of the pieces that you showed earlier, you know, had her saying, I was young, I was manipulated, I was always kind of a screw up and I didn't want to be that. And I think people can relate to that. So I think she just needs to keep being honest, open, and vulnerable, not to get upset with the defense attorney as he is questioning her, and just tell her story as it is. Hopefully there are jurors that will understand maybe not the sexual assault and then kind of glorifying the rapist, but you know, seeing somebody or showing somebody in a light that you don't necessarily show them in, you know, behind closed doors. So hopefully some of the jurors will relate to that aspect at least.
Yes, excellent analysis, Claudia. Thank you so much for that. Mia's going to be back up there approximately 9 a.m. this morning. Our team is there, so we'll have continued reporting throughout the day. Claudia King, Manuel Gomez, thank you both so much for your insight and your expertise. We'll look forward to seeing you back here soon. And coming up next here on Opening Statements, we're looking back at the Reconstruction experts in defendant Karen Reed's retrial. Who would you say won the battle? Welcome back. Now to what's tipping the scales. Things could come down to a battle of the experts in Karen Reed's retrial. Both the prosecution and the defense's accident reconstructionists faced off on Friday, testifying to their opinions of what happened the night that John O'Keefe was killed and found dead in the snow. Accident reconstructionist Judson Welcher testified for the Commonwealth about what he says was a collision.
I did this at very low speeds, and you'll see, and we'll throw this from two different angles. That's me showing I'm doing test 2. This is from a camera that we have pointing down at it. This is the speed. You'll see it's only about a 2-mile-an-hour impact, but even a 2-mile-an-hour impact redirects me back and causes me to rotate and take a step.
Wow. That reconstruction expert was really something. Now, the defense started off their case with someone to try to refute that expert's testimony. The defense expert, his name is Matthew DeSogra, gave his opinion. Take a listen.
Do any of the data indicate that there was a collision on January 29th, 2022 at any time? What did you find in terms of any data regarding a collision?
Neither of the events that occurred on that date were triggered by a collision.
Who do you think won the battle of the experts? Hit us up on social media. Let us know. Who do you think the jury's going to believe? That's what matters. We can all have opinions, but the members of the jury have the opinions that are going to matter the most in this case. So let's talk about it with our legal eagles now. Let's bring back in Mario Gallucci and Tommy Pope. Okay, who did you both think was the better expert and why? Mario, to you first, please.
So, Julie, as you said, this is going to come down to a battle of the experts. These cases usually do come down to a battle of the experts. And I know those Karen Reed people out there are not going to like what I have to say, but I think that Welcher actually wins this one. I thought he did a much better job on cross. I thought he did a much better job in his presentation. I thought he did a much better job in answering the questions. You can only attack these witnesses by credibility and the methodology they used. And I believe DeSober's credibility was hit a little bit and damaged when he never had any training in cell phone, mobile phone analyzation. He never had any formal training in the actual device that was used in the car. So, right there you attack his credibility. And, the methodology, they're trying to create reasonable doubt, and I don't think they were able to do it. I give the edge to Welcher.
I'm with you there, Mario. Tommy, what do you think? Who did you like better and why?
I agree with Mario as far as the experts themselves. I thought the subtlety was the defense expert, if you listen, and I watched the cross too, and I thought the cross went longer than it had to, but the subtlety is, they said, does any of the data indicate an impact or whatever, phraseology used? And he said, none of those incidents, indicated impact. But on cross, you found out that that's not what that data does. It wouldn't indicate an impact anyway, is what I understood from the cross. And so they were, it can be made more clear to the jury that they're almost kind of playing word games with them, because what they're saying is, well, there was no data that said impact, but the data they're looking at, that's not what it's for. So I thought it was effective. Again, like you said, it's ultimately down to the jury, even though I've heard that the jury really leans forward and takes notes when the experts are speaking. So hopefully the prosecutor grabbed a hold of that piece. If it is what has appeared to me, it was a attempt for an end run, or attempt to say there wasn't an impact without analyzing the true data, or recognize the data would never tell you it was an impact anyway.
Right. Tommy, thank you for that. That's really an important point that Hank Brennan brought out on cross. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's explain what you're saying here. And I think the other thing that was problematic, and Mario, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, being a defense attorney, the defense expert never looked at Karen Reed's car. And Hank Brennan made a big deal about that. Never looked at it, never got another car like it, like the Commonwealth's expert did, never did any testing with it. How problematic do you think those things are when the guy is working for the defense?
It's extremely problematic. Like I said, you attack an expert through credibility and methodology. And if his methodology is flawed, which I believe it was in this case, and not looking at the car, is a big deal. I mean, the car is the instrument that led to O'Keefe's death, is the argument here. So how do you not look at the car? How do you not go through the trouble that Welcher went through? So I think it's very problematic for them, and that's why I'm giving it to Welcher here.
Right.
Big time.
Right. And Mario, we're going to have to let you go in a minute. So one more question to you, please. How about Welcher using that blue paint? What did you think of that? Do you think that was pretty genius to demonstrate how the impact happened to the elbow?
So I thought it was great, because you're going right to a juror. They know what blue paint is. They know where blue paint, where it comes from. It's not very complicated for you to make a jump to see. That was perfect, the way they demonstrated that. Brings it right down to the jury, puts it down right down to the easiest component you could possibly have in demonstrating how O'Keefe got hit by that car.
I'm with you. I thought he was just awesome. What an awesome expert Judson Welcher is. I'm sure he's going to be getting a lot more phone calls to do a lot more cases. I saw somebody on Twitter said he was like the Dr. Kenny Kinsey of the Murdoch case. Dr. Welcher is to the Karen Reed case, and I certainly agree. And Tommy, I know you can appreciate that point being in South Carolina. Tommy's coming with us for Court TV Live. Mario's going off to court. Mario, good luck with your cases today. Thank you for your time and expertise. And that's all for opening statements, my friends. Watch the episode again, share it, go to courttv.com to do that. We'll be right back in Massachusetts.